Okay, welcome back to members of 121 Community Church in Grapevine, Texas, and our ongoing study in a Phenomenology of Christian Life by Felix Murchadha, published by Indiana University Press in 2013. We've looked at the introduction in two parts, and we know that Murchadha is synthesizing Henri and Marion. And then we had a chance to look at chapter 1. We got a good beginning. Now we're going to take a look at pages 61 to 90 on light and dark. Light and dark. And it's going to key in on the work of the intellect. Let's begin with block 1. And Murchadha tells us that desire acts at the intersection of light and dark by expressing the self-understanding of existence. It's a desire for that which disrupts the sensate world. We pass from sensation to negating secular reason, and then moving on to spiritual light. It's the light as a source of being and light as a source of knowledge. If we look at note 2, the celestial world exists behind the earthly. The self is to be directed by the celestial world. Light equals the opening up of meaning. It's the radiance of creation. And we see it in the surplus of goodness and the surplus of truth that is veiled behind the sensate realm. So we look at goodness and truth. It radiates through darkening, and what he means there is the darkening of secular reason. It radiates through that negation. It's the light of the spiritual gaze, where each thing stands within a holistic world. It's a desire for light. It's a movement from ignorance to truth, a movement from ignoring the truth to affirming the truth and to recognizing the truth, a movement from ignorance to truth. Note 4, transcendence withdraws from the light of world. In the self's silence of world darkness, the self's true existence first emerges as this spiritual desire. Light is the essence of visibility, of the hidden. It is the possibility of visibility that darkens worldly vision, darkens world truth, worldly perception. So under this possibility of visibility, the eyes of the soul can bear the excess of visibility, that surplus of promise and reality, which is the Logos. The metaphysics of light is a movement from the eyes of the body to the eyes of the soul. Nous mind is that which illuminates through subordinating the eyes of the body. So it's nous mind, it is subjectivity that illuminates that which we grasp as veiled behind sensate reality. Under nous mind, the being of what can be seen is that which allows it to come to light. Natural vision sees the surface form, which deflects vision toward soul-type vision. Desire presented to us in Plato's Allegory of the Cave illustrates this. And now Murchadha wants to take up the Allegory of the Cave in notes 7 through 12. He says Plato's Allegory of the Cave is an expression of the movement of desire, beginning with a tendency to cling to particular entities. And that becomes disrupted by departing from the obvious order to another order, which reveals the truth, where sensory experience is uncovered. So under this uncovering, in note 8, Plato's allegory took us through rupture and through movement of identification. Through the medium of light, the object becomes present to sight. We see the things that bear qualities. Through vision, the differences between real and non-real become understood. So under this aspect of real and non-real, in note 9, our way of experiencing is that of naming. We name the pre-given realities. And that is equated with the aletheia truth. The relation of ignorance to bondage is important and illustrated in this allegory. Bondage is delusion about the real. Bondage is delusion about the real. So note 10, we must transcend the world of shadows. And that means it's a true conversion must take place, a turning around, a rupture with the past, an instantaneous transition. So under this idea of rupture, in note 11, knowing one's self results from the release from shadows. The capacity to see varies with the light, requiring adaptation and time. The self understands that there are degrees of distance from the real. There is a capacity of perception within the subjective self. Now we get back to subjectivity in note 12. The movement from the visible to the invisible is a movement of enlightenment to a light of the intellect. The self learns to differentiate between the real and that which resembles it, reaching a recognition of beauty, taking place within the nous mind of subjectivity. So in the first block, the theoretical block, Murchadha wants us to truly understand the allegory of the cave as an allegory that illustrates the apprehension of the real. And now we want to move into the concrete side, and that means the positing of the real in block 2. And Murchadha is going to give us the 4 moments for positing the real. The 4 concrete moments for positing the real. We begin with the order of the cosmos. The ordering principle of the cosmos is the movement of light. The movement proceeds through the object of appearing, then nous mind, and then enlightenment. In darkened world, nothing can be seen distinctly. Day and night reflect a difference of thought. It's the mind related to objective thing. So we take a look at nous mind again in block 2, note 2. Thought is understood in terms of sight, as the eye of the mind, that which gives objects their truth, as that eidos form or that eidos idea that we posit. And it's all within the good that unites all things together. The good is that which unites. It is the union between things in existence. So it's all about gathering the eidos ideas within the unifying good in note 3. Or we could say gathering the eidos forms within the unifying good also. As things are disclosed to thought, the good equals the vision of their inner unity as the source of the real. It's mediated through the invisible light of the good, mediated through spiritual light. So let's take a look at block 2, note 4. Invisible light of the good is that which transcends being, which allows an entity to be known as its true self by providing necessary unity, the ultimate unifying principle of the world. That's the realm within which we posit our eidos forms. So note 5, the unifying principle of the world, which is the basis of world. Knowledge means to know entities within the unifying goodness, in their place in the unified cosmos, within the hierarchy of being. Murchadha says there is a hierarchy of being in this structure. So under this hierarchy in note 6, we articulate the relation between the objective real object and the subjective nous thought. The visible realm discloses the invisible real, which it resembles. This disclosure takes place through the medium of enlightenment, and this represents the 2 sides of the real. Let's take a look at note 7. Glory is the objective visible realm of appearing. Episteme is the knowledge of the nous mind that perceives the real and assigns the eidos forms. Knowledge of the real is self-actualized and necessary, says Murchadha. The hierarchy of being extends from opinion, dokeo opinion, to episteme knowledge. From dokeo opinion to episteme knowledge. Note 8, under that opinion to knowledge, the real is perceived by the following 4 moments. Here are the 4 moments for positing the real. Noesis is intuitive consciousness. We begin with intuitive consciousness, that being born from above. Dianoia is the logical reasoning of the intellect, where we try to sort and grasp the eidos forms. Pistis, faith or belief, is next, which must take place just prior to positing. And then eikasia, posited imagination, where we actually posit our eidos sign model into actuality. Thinking is concerned with these eidos forms. We first form a hypothesis concerning the eidos forms, then move toward defining the arc sign that represents every single form. So this concrete side is all about the formation of signs in note 9. In Genesis, the human being is created in language. Human essence is linguistic. Existence experiences itself in its own ecstatic movement of desire, a movement toward articulating life, a movement toward articulating self-identity. So we've looked at the theoretical in Block 1. We looked at the theoretical and the work of the nous mind in apprehension. Then we looked at the 4 moments of positing the real in Block 2. Now we're able to move on to Block 3 and look at Christ as the light of creation. And again, this is really picking up on Henri and Marion. Christ as the light of creation. So Murchadha tells us in Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, the 2 principles of the universe came into being, the Uranus heaven and Sarx finitude, yet there was no place for significance, no place for sign meaning. In Genesis 1:2, everything was without form. The latter-day creation brought form, when sound and vision became intertwined. So note 2, in Genesis 1:3-5, light is divided from darkness. Darkness precedes light. Darkness initially exists between heaven and earth. To bring light also implies bringing of a place for language. God's words, "Let there be light," are addressed to another, and that another is Christ the Son. So under note 3, the Father is addressing the Son. Then the Son brings forth creation. Relation is constituted at the very beginning of creation. Genesis describes the state of being. Speech brings about its own meaning. So under this Block 3, Note 4, the state of being, difference emerges between that which is spoken and the context within which it is spoken. The speech act brings about its own context. Light in Genesis is that which God creates to allow for meaning to enter into the world. So note 5, the creation of light differs from the rest of the creation act. The creation of light makes for the possibility of meaningful order for creation. Light governs everything in creation. It envelops all of creation. And that'll take us on to note 6. All right, note 6. Light envelops creation. It allows things to shine forth. Light is a source of their being, related to a beyond of the world. In 1 John 1:5, we read, God is light. So under God is light, the figure of Christ is reconcilable with the account of light in Genesis. Christ is the event that radiates light as the gift of love, which only faith can recognize. In Luke, we read, Luke 11, Christ's whole body is full of light. Christ is revelation full of light in note 8. By being turned toward God, we are filled with light, following the call of God in Christ, the closest call of Christ. In Christ, we find the self-expression of divine love. Christ gives meaning to his own appearance. Christ gives illumination. Christ gives meaning in note 9. Christ leads us to vertical transcendence, toward the illumination of all things in creation, negating secular, worldly light, turning it to darkness. And then in Isaiah we read, over Christ, God's glory can be seen. In Isaiah 60:19, Yahweh will be your everlasting light. Murchadha concludes with the absolute truth in block 3, note 10. Jesus Christ is the doxa glory of Yahweh. The light, the sight in darkness, is the sight of faith. The worldly eyes of body are darkened so that revelation can take place, and that's revelation toward another light, and that's the transformative divine light in the self-revelatory appearing of Jesus Christ as the revelation of the one true living God. Beautiful chapter 2 on light as truth, as illumination, very similar to Henri there, but also very similar to Marion in block 2 with those 4 moments of positing the real. That's going to wrap up chapter 2. That's pages 61 to 90. We're going to pick up next time in chapter 3.